Man, how you feeling today, brother?
Man, another beautiful day to be above ground, man. I'm well, but I'm tired.
Yeah, yeah. I feel it, man. I feel it, bro. I was a little upset, man. I sent you a very heartfelt birthday message,
That's
man. You ain't
crazy.
get back to me.
Somebody else told me something like that too, bruh. I don't know if it was just booming like that
Yeah.
and I overlooked stuff, respectfully, but yeah, I definitely did not see. But you like the third person that's told me this, bro. That's the
Yeah.
crazy thing, though. So I feel pretty bad about it. You
Nah.
text this to me, or where did you
It's
send
love,
this?
man. It's all good, man. I texted to you, but it's the Let's Grow Together podcast. So I'm gonna read you what I said, man, because I feel like you
All
deserve
right,
to hear this,
that's
man.
love. Cause I definitely don't see it. I'm looking through my
Yeah,
phones as
yeah,
we
yeah.
speak. So
And I said, welcome to the Dirty 30s Club, my boy. Wishing you love, light, and wisdom for your birthday. I said, remember, we are ripe with knowledge, ripe with joy, ripe with influence, and ripe with experience. Do not let the number 30 make you feel old, but allow it to be a reminder of all the great things you've done, overcome, and the abundance to come. So, what I'm saying? Had to give
oh
you that,
man, hey, that
man.
is that is worth a hug, a dap, or something.
Yeah,
Forgive
man.
me, brother. Charge it to the mind and not my heart. Sincerely,
For
man. It
sure.
was a unique time, but now I appreciate that, man. That definitely resonates with me. And I took your advice, man. 30 is not old. I had like all the old heads call me like, man, you not
Yeah.
old boy. You
Yeah.
alright,
Yeah.
spring
Yeah.
chicken. So
Yeah.
yeah, I received that. I received that. You know, I never grew up with educators that looked like myself. I always knew that wisdom was a powerful tool, but I also know that oftentimes we neglect it because of who it comes from. No,
Facts.
it's not necessarily just about being a king. It's more so about becoming a kingmaker.
Man, you got to be close enough to relate, but far enough ahead to inspire.
James, man, good to see you again, brother. What's new with you, man?
Likewise, man. Over this past weekend, man, me and my old lady got engaged, man. So we winning at life right now, man. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and clap it up for myself.
Yeah, you got to, you got to.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It was funny, man. It didn't go as planned, but it went the way that it was supposed to. Um, yeah, that.
You share some more context. I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to hear
yeah.
a little bit about that.
So to make a long story short, man, we had this dope photo shoot kind of planned, and the photo shoot was one of my homies. He was like, "Man, come do a photo shoot," blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, this would be a great opportunity for me to propose because, it's going to be intimate. We're going to be doing the photos. We already dressed. The vibe going to be right. So, I kind of got the team together to kind of help me throw everything together. Hit Markayla up like, hey, I need you to help me with this. Other guys help me with that. So Markayla get the flowers, you know what I'm saying? My girl, her first name starts with the A, so it had the nice little A on it. It was beautiful, right? So we get to the spot, and as soon as I get there, I know something is off. Because I'm like, man,
Mm.
one, it's like a ton of people here. Like, and I'm like, why is there so many people here? I'm like, okay, maybe they was here before, using the
Mm-hmm.
studio, they gonna leave. But again, to make a long story short, they never left. So mind you, uh they there doing what they doing, and then me and my girl are on the other side doing this photo shoot. So I'm just like, man, this is just not intimate enough. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was
Yeah,
just gonna be
yeah.
me, him, and her. He was supposed to record it too. He didn't get to record it, so it just kind of messed the whole little
He
vibe
fumbled the
up.
bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, but and he was able to kind of make up for it because we did do a nice little kind of like interview afterwards where we kind of got to answer some questions about ourselves and our relationship. But I had to completely pivot because I had a plan of like, all right, we had two outfits. When she was going to change it to the second outfit, I was going to get the flowers. I was going to be ready. Cameras was going to be rolling, and it was going to happen. But because it was so many people there, I just kind of said, hey, audible on the play. Like, literally, I said that. And I was like, it's just not intimate. It's random people she don't know. I was like, I know them, but she don't. So I don't want to even do all that. So man, we ended up just going to dinner after that. We already had the reservation, and I pretty
Okay.
much proposed after dinner because me and my girl, low key, man, I just couldn't imagine proposing in the restaurant and the whole
Right.
restaurant going
Everybody.
crazy like that.
Bunch of randoms, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, we went from like 6 randoms to like 30 randoms. So I was like, you know what, that's just not the spot. But we ended up
Yeah.
just going for a nice walk where we were at down because it was a beautiful day that day. And so like she was like, man, this looked like a nice spot to do a little TikTok. So she set her camera down, you know what I'm saying? So we get to doing a little TikTok. And I'm like, hey, I got this card. So I had to like read this card that came with the flowers. And as she was opening it, I kind of got down. And the thing,
Yeah.
so the beautiful part is that her camera was recording the whole time. And the funniest part
Okay.
is, caught it on camera. Bro, I couldn't even get the words out. Like, she was so excited. She, yes, 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 hugging up on me. And I'm like, wait, 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 hold on. I got to do this right. I got to do this right. You know what I'm saying? And so I proposed. Of course, she said yes. But the dopest part is she choking me. I can't really even talk. A lady is coming out from the restaurant we just left. Was like, oh my god, did you guys just get engaged? Oh my god, that's so beautiful. Get the basically doing exactly what the whole restaurant would have done. And even that, I was just like, you know what, babe? I was like, I'm glad we did it right here because she acknowledged it. That was cool. But I couldn't even imagine it being in the whole thing because my girl would have been crying and embarrassed a little bit, all type of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
man. But it was beautiful though because she was like, although it didn't go as planned, because I kind of told her what the plan was after that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
she was like, "Man, forget what you talking about. It was a
It was
beautiful
perfect.
day. It was
It was
perfect."
perfect.
She was like, "And shout out to you, because I wouldn't have known none of that." She was like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
calm you, cool you was." She was like, "I wouldn't have knew none of that went wrong. I just thought, it was what it was." But yeah, man, that was dope.
Kudos, man. Blessings to you and sis, man. I always plan
Appreciate
for
it.
a pivot. Quick insight before before we transition to our guest. Believe it
Yeah.
or not, I had a very similar experience for my engagement. It's crazy you say that.
Yeah.
Um, quick insight, man. I We actually went to like the Outer Banks, and her people were in the next room, and
Hmm.
it was us in our room. I ended up going and talking on the phone with my homeboy, like my right hand man, and was like, "Man, I'm getting ready to propose." Come to find out, she was in the bathroom, and our bathrooms were back to back. So I was under the
Mm.
impression she heard what I said,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
when I walked into the next room, she was like, "Oh yeah, that was you just in the bathroom. Dag, these walls is thin." So I'm like, "Man, I know you ain't trying to tell me. You just heard
Yeah, yeah.
everything." So I'm hot, end up getting out there, end up doing a proposal, but I'm kind of doing it a little salty. And she like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. This is such a surprise." And I'm looking at her like, "For real? Like, are you punking me or you really didn't know?" We end up talking about it down the line. She didn't hear none of our conversation. It was all muffled. So
Yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah.
very funny. But again, plan for a pivot. Men planning on getting on a knee, plan for a pivot, right? So
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
moral of
yeah.
the story, man.
100%, 100%. But hey, it worked out. You know what I'm
You
saying?
feel
So
me?
I'm proud of that.
Nonetheless.
But
Salute,
man,
salute.
go ahead and introduce our guest, man. I hear we got a dope one tonight.
Yeah, man, we got another banger bringing it back for you all, man. This brother is just a phenomenal spirit, man. A dope vessel for really making impact across the board. Had the opportunity to cross paths with him, and I said, "Yo, you gotta bless the podcast with some insight and game, man." So we're gonna bring on my brother, Mr. Caleb, man, and we're gonna introduce him as far as just getting a little bit of his background. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so Caleb, we know you do a lot of different things. Well, you got your hands in a lot of pots, man. But doing a little bit of digging, learning about your background, man. I know that you were raised in developing nations as the son of a missionary, and I know that's really a core component that shaped you to be who you are today. So, would love to learn, how did your upbringing shape you and your world views when it comes to influencing your approach to leadership and problem solving?
Ooh, man. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on.
Of
Um,
course.
Definitely appreciate it. I saw some of your guys' videos from your past interviews, and I thought some really cool conversations you guys were having. So big props to the both of you. But Marcus, no, thank you. That's a that's a long one to answer, man.
Hmm.
Um, so, like you saw in my introduction, I am the son of a missionary. It was myself, my sister, and my mom, and we were in South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And so that's from birth to 18 years old. So I
Wow.
came to the US in 2013, fresh off the plane, and immediately jumped into American society. And so my worldview was um, heavily influenced through a lot of suffering,
Mm,
poverty, just brokenness, but also hope. I got to see a lot of positive impact that the church was doing, and a lot of places where church was, they had the physical building, but they didn't understand the concept of grace or
Yeah.
unending love. For them, it was very limited. Everywhere we were was typically post conflict. And so, um, especially Africa, there was just unbelievable suffering there, but also got to see some unbelievable transformation. And so, uh, a lot of that I carried with me as an adult, wanting to be able to continue to be a part of that, the hope that comes in Christ. And so, that was a honestly, that's what shaped me to who I am today, without a doubt.
Mm. I know you kind of heard, me and Marcus talking about the fumbles of our proposals in a sense. But like growing up in so many unpredictable environments, what did that teach you about like resilience and being able to adapt to any situation?
Man, yeah, that I don't like to use the cliche Swiss Army knife, but you learned real quick how to be one of those, man.
Yeah.
My first my first introduction to someone passing away, I was about 9. And I know there are people who've been through worse. I'm not saying that they haven't, but it was due to a car wreck. And you're 9 years old. You don't really know what you're supposed to do in that, but you're not supposed to see as much blood as you see. And so I had
Yeah.
just I jumped in. Some of the kids that my mom worked with at the orphanage had jumped in to try to help, and I just jumped in with them, and we were taking pieces of clothing, trying to bandage people up. And so I learned real quick right then and there, like, hey man, there are going to be situations you're in that you're not familiar with, but you just got to learn to adapt and flow with the environment. I would say people skills was the strongest thing I picked up. There was a
Hmm.
lot of people I learned how to communicate with through cultural cues, hands and arm gestures, and the fact that we might speak the same language, but we're not trying to say the same thing right now, because there's just colloquialisms that are very unique to the parts of the country you might be in. And so, yeah, man, growing up in places without power, that was a big
Mm.
thing. You just learn how to adapt, overcome. Um, we would go to church services, and sometimes it was a candlelight vigil because there's just no power.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
oftentimes you are the music because you're in the village, you're out in the bush, or you're out in the bush. And so you learn to make do with the best that you had, which was often just you being creative.
Yeah.
mm.
That's
What,
beautiful.
what was what was one of the most impactful locations or venues you were at? And then can you tell me maybe about a specific story that really stuck with you to this day as well?
Yeah, no. Okay. So probably the most impactful was Cambodia. That was
Okay.
going back to 2008 to 2013 for a few reasons. During that period, I was a teenager. So I was kind of coming into my own. I was starting to learn more about the world and that worldview. I started to really kind of hone in on what mine was. And so I started learning about ultimately there are bad situations, but then there's also, or I won't say bad situations. There's situations, but then it's who the individuals are that respond to those situations that kind of make or break how bad or how good that situation can be. And so I say that because I started to learn about brokenness, and like ultimately everyone is born broken, and it is through the love of Christ that we are healed and made whole. And so I started seeing like it doesn't matter who you are and who you're with in a certain situation, because depending on what your worldview is as a Christian or a non-believer, it can have all the difference. That was my first introduction to human trafficking. During that time, there was a it was a family, believe it or not, and we were going through a village. And over there, especially in Cambodia, in the deep villages, if you have a car, they just assume you're a millionaire. That they're incredibly poor in some parts of the country. And so I knew the girl. She was actually she wasn't an orphan, but she would come to the orphanage to be a part of the church services, and the family was going through financial difficulty. And the I was riding in the back of my mom's truck, and the parents had come outside to greet us. We didn't understand the situation. We were trying to get to know the family, and they had asked if we were willing to buy her
Mm.
because they were just struggling
Mm.
so much financially. And I think it was not even $200. I mean, it was a very low amount. But to them, it was justifiable because the greater family as a whole was suffering, and they wanted to alleviate some of her suffering as well, but also try to help their own situation out. And so I say that it was very formative because that was my first real introduction to a sense of um, brokenness that is almost beyond repair. That you're willing to sell your child to strangers for the
Yeah,
hope of potentially surviving for the next few weeks. And yeah, that was a big one. It was a really big one for me.
man.
Mm.
That kind of reminds me when we my nonprofit took some kids to Colombia, and we were there to do some work in some of the communities, and it was two things that I noticed. Um, One, they didn't have some of the most basic things that you think of, like literally we stayed somewhere where they didn't have shower heads, like it was just a pipe with water just coming out of it, and I found myself just reflecting, and I'm like, in America we have all these things that we think we need, and we're so focused on all this other stuff, and it's like these people don't even have appropriate plumbing in order to take a proper shower. And then
Yeah.
there were these houses literally that looked like they were built on top of this river, like they're not even supposed to be there, and it looked like if you poke it it will fall type thing. And
Hmm.
these kids were the happiest that I've ever seen kids, and they were just playing and having fun. And so it just makes me think like we value some of the wrong things over here in America. So I'm interested in knowing, like, you spent most of your young life um, you know, in other countries, but what was that transition like actually coming to America and being here, for the first time?
That was hard, man. There were some things I expected, culture
Mhm.
shock being a big one. Um, I I came to the U.S. in 2013 and started college that fall,
Mm.
and that was tough, man. Trying to navigate a culture that I wasn't familiar with, or you go and hang out with guys, but you have nothing in common with them, and
Yeah.
they don't know how to handle you. You don't know how to handle them, so you just kind of walk away like, "Crap, I'm not, this isn't going to work out too well." So I was a
Mhm.
loner, not by choice, but because I just didn't understand people.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
spoke
yeah.
English, you wouldn't notice that I was different from you, other than the fact that I didn't have a southern accent, right? I mean, I went to a school in the South, but I didn't sound like I was from there.
Yeah.
The bigger thing though for me, which is something I struggled with more than I thought I would, was understanding what it was to be a man. I said I was raised by a missionary mother. My dad left the mission field when I was a kid. They were in South America, and he struggled with his vices, and so the church recalled him back home, saying like, "Hey, man, you were sent to be a vessel of light and to be a preacher, and you're doing all the things we preach against, so we're going to have to recall you." And so my mother volunteered to continue on her own. And so growing in that void of a male presence, like a strong male presence in the home, I had a lot of things that I just didn't understand about myself, what was expected of me, what I'm supposed to model myself after. And so I had essentially two things going against me right there, which was um, understanding what my role as a man, as a biblical man, was supposed to look like. I can read about it, I can watch it on TV, but I cannot, in a sense, understand how to live this out. And
Mhm.
then also, I'm trying to navigate a culture in a country that I'm not familiar with. And so those two things combined were really hard for me to navigate. And there are some aspects of that that I still struggle with today.
You have a very interesting origin, and now to see what you're doing now, really being a vessel for a lot of people around you, is phenomenal. Um, I'm curious to know, what are some of the things that you find yourself still struggling with within today's society at this point in time as well? Because again, this is not your origin by any means, but obviously you are here, you're thriving, you're doing a lot of things, but it seems you don't necessarily have the same perspective as the average individual, right? Who is be born here because of that. So I'm curious to know, what are some things that you still find, so some nuances today on a day to day basis that you're working through, or at least gaining additional perspective on each and every day.
Yeah, no. So I mean, on the aspect of biblical manhood, I think I used to be a much more, and still am to a degree, a little too passive. I always assume, especially in the third world or in countries. I mean, you've been to Colombia, so maybe you've seen this. People are very friendly. They're very open, and
Yes,
they mean
yes,
what they say.
yes, yes,
And so
yes.
sometimes I'm that way in my day to day interactions, and people are kind of taken aback by that. Like, we don't know you. Why are you so
Yeah,
friendly? And I don't mean anything by it. I just assume that it's going to be reciprocated, and so uh, in a lot of countries, you meet people like off the bat, we're best friends until you show me we're not.
yep, yep. That's
And
100%
so
right.
yeah, and so there's some parts of that, especially some of the families that my kids they go to school with, and I'm just under the assumption that our kids go to school together. Therefore, I'm gonna look out for your kid, you're gonna look out for mine, and we're all gonna be really close. And that's not always the case.
Hmm.
They don't mean anything by it, but that's just again, it's people are a little bit more reserved, closed off. So that's one aspect of that, and then two, talking about biblical manhood and being intentional, but also a warrior for Christ. There are things that I would say that I struggled with is sometimes in the church, especially that we're taught to be these. Um, we're taught to be not necessarily the aggressor, but we're taught to be the protector. And what does that look like? And so I navigate that um, sometimes better or worse in trying to discover, what is it day to day that I can do better to be a better example, more positive example of Christ, especially with some of the women that I get to work with. Um, I love them and they're great, but the thing that's always playing in the back of my mind is like, am I walking with them as Christ would expect me to walk with them? And it's in the small things. It's not in any way a big thing that I'm struggling with. It's just maybe I shouldn't make these jokes here. Maybe I could make these jokes here or talk about this, maybe not talk about that. Because I want to constantly show them that I am looking out for their best interests and being the best example that I can be for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got it,
I feel
Marcus.
that. Yeah, I feel that more than you know, right? Striving not necessarily for perfection, but to appease the maker, right? We want to make sure we're
Right.
doing everything to his standard. And then also, man, I relate more than you know to the pure hearted element. Oftentimes, everybody in the space doesn't have the same intentions as you do, and that can taint your pureness oftentimes, right? My mom jokingly always used to say that, man, I could talk to and befriend anybody and be having their mom wanting to invite me over to for lunch or dinner at the end of the day. And I realized that was a lot more so of me of a juvenile in my youth. But as I got older, I became an extroverted introvert, right? Or excuse me, an introverted extrovert, where I
No, I
became
know.
less
Yeah.
social, wasn't really as fond of people, and it was because I'd be more willing to kind of give my all on the front end, and when things weren't reciprocated, only person who was really let down was you. So I definitely understand that wholeheartedly, man. Um, that can be a unique experience, right? And we want to give it all because that's what we really want to do. But there's a survival mechanism, which is like, hey, pull back a little bit, right? You may be doing a little bit much, so you're not alone, man. I know exactly what you mean, Caleb.
Yeah. Now I agree. I was gonna say the same thing. I'm like, it's a delicate balance of like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I want to show people that I'm here for them, that I care for them, and I truly I will give them the shirt off of my back if I needed to. But I think, especially in American culture, is like a lot of people feel like they've been burned so much that why is this guy so nice? Like he
Mm-hmm.
has to want something. Instead of just taking it for face value. I always say, or one of my mentors would always say, like, take things as information. Like, all right, you may not know if I'm actually being genuine or not, but just kind of take it as it is. Don't make any
Right.
assumptions. Just kind of take it as it is. And as you start to observe, you're like, oh no, he's really this nice of a guy. He's taking care of my kids. He's, buying the kids, candy in the neighborhood, whatever the situation is.
Hmm.
But I want to ask you because I know you come from or you transitioned into the military. Was that partially because you kind of you were a loner and didn't find your clique? And I'm not gonna say clique because I don't like using those terms,
No, I
but
got you. I got you.
because you didn't find your group in
Your
college.
tribe.
Yeah, your tribe,
Yeah.
exactly. So was
Ooh,
that what
man,
led you down the military path?
it's a partial answer.
Okay.
Um, so coming off the mission field as an 18-year-old, I had a lot of questions. Questions about who I was, questions about what I wanted to do with my life, and then kind of questions of what was God's plan in all of it combined. And so I knew that I wanted to be around men, manly examples, people that could show me how to be a better version of myself. I had leaned into that when I first got back in the States in the church. But I
Mm,
found ultimately at the church that I was going to, the men were a little more passive and not men I looked up to.
yeah.
And so that was something where I was kind of turned off by the idea of immersing myself more in the church. They were very biblically sound, but I wasn't impressed by their lifestyle. I wasn't impressed by it
Mm.
was a lot of do as I say or do as I say, not as I do. And I was like, yeah, dude, I don't want to do this. And you keep telling me I need to be this meek, humble dude all the time. It's like sometimes we gotta say no when something bad's happening. I'm not gonna constantly just back up.
Yeah.
And so that was one aspect of it. Two, I thought I knew it all and I knew what I was going to go do with my life, and I didn't want to listen to anybody's advice. And so I went to college for 3 months, dropped out, and then I went to California because that's where all the cool people are. And I lived there for about a month, and then I became homeless, which was a really big pain point. But I think God will often take us down to our knees so that way He can get our attention. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
essentially
Mhm.
forced into submission. And I'd spent a lot of time in California praying. That was my prodigal son moment, if you will. I had ran away, did my thing, and then after I was there. I was out in California for 2 years trying to make it work. I was a pool boy, living in the back of my truck, doing what I could to make money. But I had gotten to my breaking point. I was like, all right, God, what am I supposed to do with all this? And I just felt this call to join the army. I really didn't know what I was going to do in the army. I didn't know what in the army I needed to be, but I just knew I got to join the military and God's just going to take it from there. And so I joined the army that year. And then immediately afterwards got brought out to North Carolina. But I knew at minimum in joining the army, I would get myself stabilized. And then two, I would be surrounded by literally strong men were outstanding leaders that could show me in a pretty quick amount of time, like, hey, this is what you need to do in order to get X, Y, and Z results. And so it was something I had craved from boyhood since I lost my father. Um, but it was the only way I knew how to get it. And I think God honestly just used it as a conduit to help get me up to speed, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of my friends, my homeboys, my counterparts who were in a similar state where they were kind of just wondering, is what I like to say, right?
Yeah, no, it
And
definitely was.
the military scooped them up, provided them the discipline, the structure, the fundamentals to create a sound future for their family. And it's played a huge role in a lot of their lives. And again, they would do it all over again if it came down to it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious to know uh, what specific elements did you find within the military which really put a fire under you as well too. Was it specific conversations that happened that really impacted you? Was it the basic training, the I know oftentimes they say kind of the breaking you down to building you up element of it as well too? Or what specific element or what specific moments was it for you? Was it a meeting? Was it the strategy, the philosophy kind of elements
Hmm.
that really played a role in that you continue to hold on to as well?
Man, no. So my first interaction with the military when I was a kid was in Africa. And there's a local soldier. So in some countries, the military also kind of acts like the police,
Mm,
and
Hmm.
it's almost like a hybrid. And this guy, he was a guard that lived not far from where we were, and he was always a very nice man, good soldier. But I just remember, especially because it was my mom, myself, and my sister. I was 7 or 8 at the time. Um, some guy was just being real nasty, and he was threatening my mom,
mm,
and this soldier came by, and over there they don't have like police brutality laws. Like a cop does what he wants and he gets away with it. And so this dude took the butt of his AK and just walloped this guy across the face.
mm,
And I just remember I was like, it takes a strong man with a spine to stand up for others that will create order from chaos. And I just remember just admiring him because I knew I was in trouble. I was a kid. I tried to stop this guy from talking nasty to my mom, and he just shoved me away. And then the soldiers just came from down the street and just took care of it for us. And I just remember looking up to him so strongly. And I just thought, man, I want to be like you one day. I want to be the guy that you can put into a bad situation and I can be the protector for those who are unable to protect themselves. And so that is the memory I cling on to that got me through a lot of my military training. It wasn't so much that it was something that what happened to me specifically going through basic training. I just knew that it was going to build up to me getting to be the one who helped rather than hurt.
That's
Mhm.
good. That's good. So after spending the time that you spent in the military, what motivated you to transition into the private sector and doing the work you do?
Man, so that happened actually while I was in the army. Um, and it started actually a little bit earlier in my career than I realized. My one of my first assignments was working with Department of Homeland Security,
Okay.
and we were working with special operations units taking care of cross-border narcotics. And an element of narcotics trafficking is human trafficking, and they wherever there's one, the other one exists. And so that was my first real exposure at 21. And so I just got immersed into a world that I was not prepared to go into. They asked me, how comfortable are you working um, the border? And I thought, yeah, that sounds fun. I love Mexico. Like, why wouldn't I want that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got thrown into something I was not prepared for. Um, but so that had kind of opened up my exposure to the world of human trafficking.
Hmm.
And slowly over time, I got more and more exposed to it. And so it was actually, we were working in operation in Mississippi back in 2022, summer of 22. And we were working with the sheriff's department. And the sheriff's office was telling us about local issues that they were dealing with. We were expecting gang violence, drugs, and I guess simple small town issues that you'd expect. But then he brought
Hmm.
up the human trafficking, and I thought, oh wow, a small town in Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi. I'd never heard of this place, and they had human trafficking issues, and so that really got my wheels turning because while there is a huge emphasis on the stopping of human trafficking, the rescuing of victims, and the prevention of kidnapping, once that individual has been sort of rescued, there's not a huge rebuilding process for them. You can
Mhm.
get tossed into a shelter, you'll get tossed to a social worker, but there's so much that's happened to them depending on the amount of time that they were in captivity that they really just need almost a whole rebuilding.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of saw us stepping in and trying to fill that void, so to speak,
Hmm.
as a hybrid ministry of functional employment, but also spiritual growth at the same time. And I wanted to do this in a way that partnered with the church and local community because I'm Caleb. I can't do anything on my own, man. I am just a very small piece in a very large puzzle. And I knew that if I was able to work with multiple individuals throughout the community to try to make this work, that it had a real shot of happening. And so it's through guys like Marcus working at PNC that have helped, slowly bring a sense of stability for these women, whether it's through finding them housing, finding them counseling, employment, banking opportunities. A lot of these women, um, didn't have a bank account, and I thought that was insane. But I
Yeah.
knew like that's
Yeah.
one of the basic building blocks of creating stability. And so it's I hate to say it's kind of a hodgepodge of things I just sort of figured out along the way, but that's really just what it is.
Yeah. 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 I think that's the beauty when God calls you to do something. It's like
Mhm.
no matter if you don't know the how or the what, sometimes you just start moving, and then all the
Mhm.
pieces to that puzzle, as you kind of said, Caleb, just start to fit together perfectly.
There's a pastor I listened to one year, and it's not the most biblically or politically, I won't say politically correct, but it's not the most like spiritual sounding advice I've ever heard, but it was
Yeah.
great because it hit home. And he said, a lot of you question God and said, God, are you sure you want to work with me? And he said, trust me, God already knew how stupid you were before he chose you. So you gotta go ahead and just get that out of your mind, man. You're
One
good.
hundred
He knows
percent.
who he's working with.
Yeah,
He
man. Yeah,
does.
man.
He does. He definitely does. Now that's spot on. I think James, you really hit the nail on the head. Oftentimes we see a problem, we want to be a solution, we just want to move on it. And I think that's the first step. And then the universe tends to have its way of providing those additional resources across the board. And one thing that I've experienced firsthand, just working alongside you, is the passion. I know oftentimes when it comes to those who have been in the midst of the human trafficking, there's a there's a level of a lack of trust, right? Let's be honest, especially when it comes to men. But right, being able to break down some of those barriers and lead by example and be able to show them, hey, I generally don't want anything from you. I just want to be able to help you. One that takes a special individual to be able to do, especially when they have been exposed. There's a couple of different layers and walls you're already having to break through. But to see how comfortable those young women were with you, like, was phenomenal. I remember I was even trying to be distant, you know what I'm saying? Hey, would you advocate for, a woman being in play just so they're comfortable as well too? They were like, no, like, oh, you're Caleb's people, you're good. Like, I was like, okay, well, yeah, that again, so kudos to you, Caleb, for providing that conducive environment across the board and allowing them to know and trust that, yo, every man isn't always the same across the board, man. I think that's a huge component of that rehabilitation, is them seeing somebody who doesn't fit that traditional mold that they're always thinking about, or that they've experienced on a consistent basis as well.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You
So,
deserve it. So
oh, you got
can
it.
you
You got it.
tell a little bit more about what you do with the business, though? I think you kind of outlined some of the framework, but I would love for those who aren't familiar with you and the wife, and the business that you all have. Can you talk a little bit about, one, what you all do on a day-to-day basis, and then two, how you're actually providing them that hands-on development support and those additional resources that are tangible?
Yeah, no, thank you. So the inspiration for the cleaning company was honestly, cleaning is a relatively straightforward game. I'm a seasoned cleaner myself, being in the army. There's one thing they taught us, and that was how to clean, buddy. That was one thing I didn't think I'd ever use again, but they sure definitely honed that in. Um, so yeah, I thought, you know what, I can do a cleaning business. I had talked with a few people before I'd gotten started, and they were advocates for cleaning. They were counselors, and they said, there's something therapeutic about it. It's quiet. You get to take something chaotic and build it into something beautiful. And so I had no idea that there was a deeper level to cleaning other than just physically cleaning, but it actually had a mental aspect to it that was very helpful. And so that was another reason we stuck with cleaning. The business itself, though, is called Good Day Cleaning. We launched back in September of 25, and we started off with one cleaner. And you got to meet her, it was Brittany. And we, I, I take that back. I literally was just going to businesses, and I was, you talk about just throwing yourself out there. I look like an idiot. I was just going around asking businesses, hey, we are new to the block. This is what I'm trying to do. Would you give me a chance? And it took a lot of talking and putting myself out there to look kind of dumb. But I just thought, you know what? This isn't about me. This is about them. And I don't care how stupid I look. I'm going to find these girls a job. And so after about a month of talking to companies, we finally got our first bite. And yeah, I was so excited. I completely forgot half the cleaning stuff at my house. Like I just threw her in the car and we just took off. But we got our first contract, and so it slowly started building from there. But the process itself, whenever we receive someone, so we work with a couple nonprofits that are local to Cumberland County, and everybody I work with is from Cumberland County. They are introduced to us. We do an evaluation, and these are people who've already been taken on board and they've had some sort of coaching or rehabilitation prior to. They're not just freshly rescued and given to us. There's a decompression process that does take place. And so once they're ready to start working with us, we take them and we just work with them for the day. We see what their needs are, what their talents are, where they kind of might fit best as far as working on a crew. And for some ladies, they prefer cleaning certain parts of the house to others. And in doing that, we get to know them, see what it is that they want to do with their lives. Because for a time being, they had that part of their life taken from them. And so if it was in
Mhm.
early high school, if it was early adulthood, they didn't get a chance to fully develop and explore who they were. There was a portion of their life they essentially got put on pause, and they didn't get a chance to dream, hope, develop, wish. And so we get to kind of take that and start to work with it and say, hey, what are some things you think you love to do? And in part of that conversation, we match them with a counselor who kind of helps them explore that a little further. And then once they've started to emphasize what it is they might want to do, we work with people from Fayetteville Tech. Shout out to Marvin Price. and he will sit with them, get a chance to talk with them, and we meet together, and we get the opportunity to sort of introduce them to an educational track that they may be interested in. And so, because of doing that, we get the chance to help them sort of explore who they are and who they want to be. And it's not because of anything I've done, but it is largely in conjunction with our partners, PNC Bank here in Fayetteville, working with us to help them get on their feet. Also, Fayetteville Tech for trying to help them get their education, whether it's their GED. We've got one girl waiting to start her nursing CRNA program, and then the counseling over at gosh, sorry, I'm blanking on her name right now. But because of some of the partners we have to help them develop these foundational building blocks to building a stable life, that we're just conduits. By giving them a steady check, they get to do all these other things. And we're not just trying to provide a check. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've had almost impromptu Bible studies just to make sure that they're getting that whole, um, I guess, holistic care, if you will. I don't want to just be an employer. Employment is honestly kind of just a small side effect of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I know you talked a lot about the young ladies that you help, but do you also help young men that may have been a victim of trafficking as well?
So, not trafficking. I used to work for Man a Church, and
Okay.
I worked in their homeless ministry in downtown Fayetteville. So that was my exposure to working with men, and
Hmm.
that was really cool. It taught me a lot. It taught me that I don't have the answers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that I know who does. And so that was a really cool ministry experience. We are looking to expand and working with men, but I have not right now. I don't have the time to fully dedicate to building up a team of only males, because right now I'm not prepared to integrate the teams in any way, male and
yeah. I can
female.
see that. I can see
I
that.
keep them separate, but I do have a vision for currently the property managements we work with. They are going to start using us for lawn maintenance for some of the homes that they're working with, and
Hmm.
so once we start getting a steady flow of those contracts, I will probably bring males on board to
Yeah,
handle the outside of the house while the girls handle the inside.
yeah, yeah. I guess like
Beautiful.
a follow up question to that is like how do you balance that, like the because you said you don't have a lot of time, but like how do you balance the business?
You don't.
um yeah, because I was gonna say especially with your personal life and being a family man. I know we heard one of your kids right as we were about to record, so like how do you try to find that balance between all of those things?
Man, so I knew when I started this, and really we are still considered a startup.
Hmm.
I've been in this job full time now since January 4th. And I know in the first 6 months it's going to be chaotic. I knew that. My wife and I, we both planned for that. So I mean, you talk about balance. This week has been insane. We got a contract for a warehouse, 30,000 square feet. Um, I was supposed to go there tonight, but I was just too tired, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be present with the family, and I'm going to be intentional about carving out a few hours to go to Chick-fil-A, come home, put them to bed, and then come hang out on the podcast. And so, you talk about balancing. It's not so much a balancing act, but really just being intentional with the little time that I do have. Whether it's, could I go sit on my couch and look at Instagram? Could I set aside 20 minutes and go get read a book by my kid? So it's being intentional, man. It is just being very careful with the time that we have. I mean, it's easy to just go sit down and just blank out for a little bit. I think it's good. Sometimes we need that, but you've also just got to prioritize the family when you get it.
Yeah,
Hmm. Making the most of every moment, right? Nah, I
Yep.
definitely understand that wholeheartedly. Caleb, man, you are a phenomenal soul. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to put it, man. From your origin to where you are now, man, I see the full circle. I see the impact. I know mom and pops are beyond proud, man, and it sounds like the foundation you have come from is now planting seeds for others across the board as well. And that's literally what we're all about here. Let's grow together, man. So before we get ready to close out, man, I'm just curious to know what words of advice or insight would you leave for somebody who has a vision, who has a goal, who has an objective, right? but may not necessarily know exactly where to start at this point in time, which a lot of individuals who desire to
Yeah.
dive in entrepreneurship are. And maybe what advice would you give your younger self, right, who is thinking about being where you are today, but isn't necessarily hasn't taken that first step just yet?
Yeah, no, man, good question. So your first question, I would say it took me some time. I had this dream for a while before I acted on it, and that was
Hmm.
I just my biggest issue was myself. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I just said, you know what, it's not ready. There's this part of the plan that I don't know the answer to. There's this part, and man, stepping out on faith is real. It's it sounds maybe a little corny, but I remember I talked to a few pastors, and I talked with a career coach of mine when I was getting out of the army, and she was like, "I give you permission to be vulnerable. Be willing to give yourself that space to just be vulnerable. Write down your plan and execute, dude. There is no such thing as a perfect plan, but there is strong willpower and ambition. And if you've got willpower and ambition, you can do it. The plan will fix itself. My gosh, every day I am tweaking my business. Every day I am fumbling the ball and I am picking myself up and saying, you know what? I don't have the answers, but God called me here, so this is going to work out. That is what keeps me going daily. It is not because I know what I need to do. It is because I meet people along the way, guys like you who've helped me come up improve my own financial plans here and there. It is simply by having the goal to just go forth and do it and not feel afraid to look stupid. I can't tell you how many times I have just had to expose myself and say, "Hey, look, I don't know that answer. I'm gonna figure it out. If you just give me a shot, we can make something happen for you." Um, it's just brash, unapologetic bravery coupled with delusional faith. Like I don't know how else to explain it, man. It is not because I'm a businessman. I don't have a business degree. I have a high school diploma. I I just knew people needed help, and I said, you know what, this is going to be the conduit to do it. So, yeah, pray on it, write it down, run after it.
That's beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
that, man. And sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Hey, you answered it in a nutshell.
Okay.
To be honest, man.
Yeah, yeah. Now I don't know if I saw an Instagram post or something, but it was basically just saying like we need to trust God like we trust our headlights. And it's like you can't always see the road that's in front of you, but you see those couple feet, but we keep driving. And as you keep driving, the road is going to continue to be there. So I think that's like the advice I would leave with somebody is like
Dude,
you
that
yeah,
was so to talk on that too.
yeah, yeah,
I had a job at a very good company, and I had taken that job. I had already started this company, but I was working it kind of part time in the background, and just
yeah,
I was doing this knowing that I was called to it. But I thought, well, I still need to work. I need to provide for the family, and I started this new job at a very prestigious place. And I started on a Monday, and I felt more convicted. I had so much anxiety that first 3 days of working there that I couldn't make any sense of it. I was just, I'm not, I knew I was not supposed to be, I was in a job that I was not supposed to be in.
yeah.
And I prayed on it, and my anxiety got worse. And on Friday, I started on Monday and I quit on Friday. And then I started full time for myself.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
when God's called you somewhere, you're gonna know if you're in the wrong lane. And it was very, very obvious. It's rare that I feel like I counter God's presence, but I really felt it that he was trying to tell me something. And I was calling my pastor. I was like, "Hey man, something's wrong." He's like, "Yeah, you need to quit." I was like, "No, I can't." He's like, "No, you need to
Yeah.
quit."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the crazy
Mm.
part is, like I said, you quit, you continue down your path, and again the road continue. And so, man, Caleb, we truly appreciate you coming on the pod and sharing your story, sharing your wisdom and insight. I know there is a listener that will hear this and take it and run with it because maybe, like Marcus said, they have a vision or they don't, right? But they know that their life is meant for more. But they're waiting on a sign. We're telling them today,
Yeah.
don't wait for that sign. Just go out, start knocking on doors, start talking to people, and everything else will work itself out.
And to add to your point, a lot of what has helped my um, progress take place was before all this started, I was volunteering at church, and that kind of exposed me to the homeless ministry that I got into. I wasn't looking for it.
Mm,
I just showed up on a Sunday and said, "Hey, where do you need me?" I thought they were going to make me a door greeter. And they're like, hey, we really need help with the homeless population. I was like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But it was through that cultivating time that God exposed in me a desire to do more intentional ministry. Um, I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know it was going to lead to that, but God
Yeah.
did, and He will put you in the rooms with the people that you need to be with. And so, all credit to Him, but it was because of my volunteering at church that it really put me, I think, on this path.
100%.
You were
100%.
vulnerable and you showed up, and the rest manifested itself through that, man. So, again, Caleb, I think you are just a phenomenal individual, man. We definitely appreciate you blessing the podcast. And again, man, continue to do the great work, man. We love to give flowers to those who are doing just that. So, man, you are beyond worthy to be a guest, man. We are beyond appeased to have you on. And again, man, thank you for sharing the story to motivate and empower our squad across the board, man. Caleb, if
No,
people
thank
are
you.
wanting to connect with you, your organization, man, what's the best way for them to find you, reach out to you? They may need your services as well too. How can they get in connection with you?
No, thank you. So if you go to our website, gooddaycleaning.net, if you just look us up for the Fayetteville area, you can read more on our story, more ways to help, ways we're involved. And then again, always just feel free. If you go onto the website, all my contact information is there. Reach out to the phone number, reach out to the email. We'd love to just chat, talk more about what we're doing, ways you guys can contribute, help out, and get connected with us.
For
Awesome,
sure.
awesome. Well, blessings, man. Well, let's go together, family. Thank y'all again for another phenomenal episode. We look forward to seeing you again here next week, man. Y'all be blessed.
For sure.
Peace.
We don't climb alone, we rise in weather. Every seed we plant, let's grow together. Truth in the soil, faith in the roots. Different paths, same table, same truth. Real conversations, watering souls. No cloud chasing, just taking control. Pain to purpose, lessons we share. If you still listening, you meant to be here. Apply what you heard. Reflect, move different. Until next time, let's grow together.